Welcome to another great episode of Royal Black and Elite, where we teach history from the other side of Black history, the royal side. I'm your host, Lady Trinette Wilson. I am a social historian and lecturer, and it is my honor to each week bring you a new story about the other side of Black history. And I'm really excited about today's teaching. So I invite you to join me as we travel to the West to review the fashion in wardrobe in Netflix 2021, The Harder They Fall, a Black Western co-written and directed by James Samuels and Boaz Yankin. I'm very excited about doing this review because fashion has always been a great part of the Black community, but it just didn't start in Africa. It came to America, and what a lot of people don't realize and know is that one out of four cowboys were Black. Some were mixed race and some were full-blooded Africans. But either way, they were here in this country and they had great style. So I'm so excited to jump right in as we talk about the Netflix movie, The Harder They Fall. And by the way, we are going to have spoilers. I will be talking about the scenes, which may reveal some of the plot. So if you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you watch it. The entire movie was a fashion statement with absolutely beautiful cinematography, and the original soundtrack was simply brilliant. The only thing that came even close to the Dynamite soundtrack was the casting. I mean, a brilliant job with the casting. It was led off by the great Idris Elba, and we'll talk a little bit more about his part, about his style. We were introduced, well, not really introduced. Some of us have seen him before, but maybe have never seen him like this. Jonathan Majors. He made Nate Love, and we've seen him on some great movies, and we'll talk a little bit about him as well. They had the wonderful Regina King. The lady was just absolutely fantastic and really played a wonderful, strong part in this film. So everybody in the movie was just great. But what we're really going to talk about and spend our time today talking about is the fashion. How close are they to how the fashions were then? And, what kind of job did they do? We want to tip our hat to the fashion designer and the person who was over the wardrobe. She styles herself Woman of Cloth. Her name is Antoinette Massam. She's a Jamaican born fashion designer and she dresses the A-listers. And she did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, with the characters in this movie. She really, really brought out the Western clothes, the timing of the season. She used different fabrics. You know what? Let's get right into it. But I did want to give a shout out to her. After the Civil War, those who didn't want to stay in the South and do sharecropping, they hit the road and they became cowboys. And that's what we don't see a lot in the movie telling is that there were a lot of Black cowboys. So it was beautiful to see a modern day cowboy story with an all Black cast. Cowboys during that era, they wore hats, scarves, blue jeans, jackets, suede, and denim shirts, chaps. And so we see all this in this movie. And the movie actors were all based on historical figures. And I say loosely based because even though some of the characters had historical names, their life path was completely different in the movie. So when you see some people in the movie, you may hear their name and they may be familiar, but they're doing some different things in the movie, and that's just because they kind of use it as historical context, but not truly the person in the movie. But what I will say is that they took the clothes to another level, and I think they did a really great job of trying to match them up as closely as possible. So the first character I'd like to introduce you to is Jonathan Majors. You may have seen Jonathan in Ant-Man 3. And most recently, he is in Creed 3. They're shooting right now. And as you see, he's really buffed up for that role. So he did a great job as Nate Love in this movie. Nate Love was born in 1854 and he actually died in 1921, but he was a former slave. And following the Civil War, he learned how to read and write when he was little as a slave. So they weren't supposed to know how to do that, but he actually knew how to do it. His father died shortly after slavery ended, so he picked up a second job and he was known for breaking horses. He left home at 16 and he headed west and he worked as a cowboy cattle driver. They called him Deadwood Dick. Now he's known as Deadwood Dick because of a herd of cattle that he herded through the Dakotas. And the city was called Deadwood. But in the movie, he was a little different. He went up through something as a child, and he was on a road to revenge. But I won't tell you too much about the movie. Let's look at the fashion. So when we look at the clothes, I think that Antoinette did a wonderful job capturing the spirit of Nate Love, but she picked it up about 1,000%. But we see here that she did use the scarf. He definitely has a hat. The pants are really nice. Here he has on a blue jean shirt. And so I think they did a wonderful job really bringing Nate Love into the 21st century as a black cowboy in the middle of the Western Territory. So I think they did a wonderful job, and so did Jonathan Majors. So we think on a scale of 1 to 10, we'll give Antoinette a definite, a whole 10 on all of the wardrobe. But they really came close to um, Nate Love in this one. Now I want to move on to Regina King. There were a few women in the movie who really played some powerful parts, but all of them pale comparison to Regina King. She was a boss, she was a part of a gang, and she was well dressed. Now we see here in this first shot, Regina is wearing a captain's coat with a hat on, uh, navy blue, but the white adding just a pinch of femininity to it. So still looking like a woman, still looking great. Now we go to the next shot and we see her in this great brown leather jacket, cinched in the middle, with a hat on, again with the white blouse, again bringing in femininity with the leather jacket on. We see her again now in these pants, and I wanted to bring another picture up. Here we see a woman in a pair of pants. In 1851, Elizabeth Smith Miller started making pants for women, so I thought it really neat to be able to see what that looked like. And then we see her in this fabulous blue skirt with the tail running in the back. So she looked very, very nice throughout the movie. She did a great job of representing Trudy. Her name was Trudy in the movie. So now we want to move on to this was really I would say, the second person who was the second lead, even though he's the first lead in most of our hearts, and that's Idris Elba. Idris Elba played Rufus Buck, a really mean and tough guy. The fashion for Rufus was pretty sparse in the movie because he was in prison, but then he got out. But the jacket truly caught the essence of who Rufus Buck was. Now, Rufus was really a gang. So it was a Rufus Buck gang. And even in this movie, he had a gang. And he had Regina King in the gang. Lakeith Stanfield was in the gang. So they had this makeshift gang. And similar to the Rufus Buck gang, that's really the only similarity. With the Rufus Buck gang in real life, the real Rufus Buck, they beat up people, they offed a deputy, they violated a woman, they were just terrible, and they were caught in August of 1896, and actually all of them were hanged. But in the movie, Rufus Buck was really a bad guy, but I thought they captured the essence of who Rufus Buck was in real life based on how they dressed um, Idris Elba. So as we see here, again, the maroon jacket, the crushed velvet jacket, which I thought was beautiful, bringing that pop of color in. The other thing you see is, of course, the vest and just a regular pair of black pants. So those were really good, and that's what we saw throughout the movie with Rufus Buck. Did a fabulous job on it. They didn't change too much about him. That hat was definitely on point, and to think that they were out robbing banks and doing all these things, but they were doing it stylishly. So a tip of the hat to Idris Elba for pulling off Rufus Buck and wearing that jacket so beautifully. Now we meet Lakeith Stanfield. Now, Lakeith is a really well seasoned actor. He played in Straight Out of Compton, Judas and the Black Messiah, and some of us might even remember him playing that crazy role in Get Out. Well, this role isn't too far from that type of behavior. Crawford Goldsby is the name that was the real name of Cherokee Bill, and that's who he played, Cherokee Bill. Cherokee was born in 1876 and he died in 1896. So he was only 20 years old. And technically, he was only a criminal for 2 years. This crime spree at 18, and he formed the Cook Gang. And the Cook Gang, they terrorized Oklahoma. And they robbed banks, stagecoaches, and stores. Eventually, he was hanged. So that's how the real Cherokee Bill ended. But let's look at their clothing because I thought Lakeith was sharp throughout this movie. And as you see the jacket, the over jacket that Cherokee Bill has on, the Keith has on one like that. And I even like the subtle stripes that they have in the pants. See him here with um, a scarf on. So I thought they caught the real essence of Cherokee Bill. And again, the Keith did a great job playing him. The clothes are just absolutely beautiful. And now we move to Mary Fields, known in the movie as Stagecoach Mary. Now, Stagecoach Mary was the first female star route mail carrier in the United States. So after slavery, she was in Tennessee, and after slavery, she began her career. And she was known for being very honest, doing a great job. And so she died in 1914 in Columbus Hospital in Great Falls. And Zazie Beetz is the lady who played Stagecoach Mary in this movie. And there was a lot of uproar about Zazie Beetz playing this part, but nevertheless, she did a great job. You know, she captured that time period, and we're here to talk about the clothes. So let's talk about the clothing because when we look at the clothes, they did do a great job with the clothing. We see the first outfit with the red bodice and the big skirt. She was a saloon owner. The real Stagecoach Mary was not, and so they made this lady, Zazie, a little bit more sultry. What I will say is, if they captured Stagecoach Mary in any of the shots or any of the wardrobe, it would have to be this jacket in terms of color, width, all of it kind of brought Stagecoach Mary to life. So great job, Zazie. Our next review will be of Bass Reeves, played by veteran actor Delroy Lindo. We know Delroy from Malcolm X, Get Shorty, Crooklyn, Romeo Must Die. So he's been in several different movies, and he did a great job playing Bass Reeves. So we see here Bass was a very distinguished man, that great overcoat that he has on, and the hat. I mean, they really got him very close to the original Bass Reeves. And then the only thing they changed there was they put a bow tie on him. So I thought they did a wonderful job with Bass Reeves, and Delroy Lindo also did a wonderful job as Bass Reeves. Now we're going to move to James Beckworth. Now, James, and some people call him Jim Beckworth, was born in 1798 and he passed away in 1867. He was played by R.J. Seiler II. His real name was Ronald. We've seen him in Black Lightning and White Boy Rick. RJ really brought the comedy in the movie, but he brought the style too. So as you can see here, the nice jacket, and I like the pop of color in this particular look, along with scarf around his neck. So they did a great job with him. Our next character is Bill Pickett, and as you see here, he's stylish. Now, he was played by Eddie Gathegi, and we know him from Blacklist, American Dad, Twilight, so he has a really long resume in acting, and he did a great job with him, and I thought he was stylish as well. As we see here that they used the hat that he wore, the scarf around his neck. On this next picture here, we really see how closely they match his clothing with Bill's. He and Eddie's clothes look a lot alike, and that was the normal, just kind of way cowboys looked during that time. I also threw another one in of Dion Cole. He played the sheriff, and let me tell you, you've got to see the movie. It was hilarious what happened to him, but he too was sharp in the movie as well. Overall, I give this movie a 10 plus, as I said earlier in the video on wardrobe. If you get a chance, go out to Netflix and make sure you get a chance to see it. It's really a great movie. The Harder They Fall. I want to thank you again for joining me for another great episode of Royal Black in Elite, where we teach Black history and Black culture from another side, the royal side. I'll see you in our next episode.